it was in your book. So how have some of those things actually influenced wellness at this point in time?
Well, let's start with genomics. And just for a quick couple of words about background, genomics is really trying to understand our genes and what they do, and using that information to, one, predict disease that might be coming, or to adjust disease, or to know that a person's going to be, it's going to find that many drugs, for example, we have genes that we can't metabolize a drug properly, or we're going to have an allergic reaction. So sometimes a genomic test can discover that before you take the drug, or that it's going to work or not work. So those are some of the types of things that genomics can do, and it's really proving to be extremely valuable. There's a lot of new drugs out now, especially for cancer, that are based entirely on knowing what the genomics or the genes are that are causing the disease, and so it's making it's a huge breakthrough. And one of the biggest things genomics is doing right now is figuring out the bacteria that are in our GI tract. In our colon, our large intestine, we have, this number always astounds me, 100 trillion bacteria, 100 trillion. That's one of those numbers that you can talk about but can't really imagine. But anyway, it's a lot of them. When we have a BM, about 60% of that BM is the bacteria, or the remains of the bacteria. And if you could weigh all those bacteria that are in your large intestine, they might weigh anywhere from half a pound to 3 pounds. So we have all these bacteria, and they're doing good things for us. But we never could know what they were until genomics came along. And it's absolutely revolutionized in just the last few years. So why is that important? Because these bacteria are very important to us. They break down fiber in food. They make energy out of it that they can use, but they also give a lot of it back to us, which is very important for the lining cells of our intestines. It's important for our heart, important for other organs, these compounds that they make. They also help control our immune system, and they're very important for digestion in general. And if they get messed up because we eat too much sugar or we eat, just the wrong foods, then we can end up causing or helping to cause any number of autoimmune diseases like Crohn's disease, like rheumatoid arthritis, and so on. So they're just extremely important to us, and we're only just learning about them in, I would say, the last 5 or 6 years.
Well, that is so true, and it's interesting. You mentioned genomics. Thank you for sharing that, because right on TV last night, it's flashing across the TV. I go, oh my God, Dr. Stephen was so far ahead with these terms. Now, when you're talking about the gut microbiota, which is like a very huge topic today, and talking about the brain-gut connection, do you feel that certain either foods or supplements can help people establish a healthy microbiome?
Yes. So the first thing is don't do what most of us do, which is we eat an enormous amount of sugar. It's in sodas, it's in our cereals, it's in pies, cakes, cookies, pastries, donuts, and so on.
There's a lot of hidden sugar, too, like in ketchup or something.
Yeah,
People wouldn't think it
it's
is.
interesting. You start reading labels and you discover there's sugar all over the place. Anyway, I'll give you one number, which always astounds me. The average American consumes 154 pounds of sugar a year, added sugar. I don't mean the sugar that's inside a grapefruit or an orange or a pear, but this is added sugars, 154 pounds. So it's hard to imagine that much sugar, but we do, because it's in our sodas and so on. So that's not what our gut needs, and what that does, that excess sugar in our gut, allows, I'll just call them the bad bacteria to grow, and it's starving out the good bacteria. So it just creates a huge upset in our GI tract. So the first thing is less what should we eat than what we shouldn't eat, and we need to cut back on sugar. And the second thing we need to cut back on that goes with it is white flour. When white flour is digested, it turns into sugar, turns into glucose, and gets treated exactly the same way as sugar does. So, and again, we have white flour in our cereals. It's in our bread. It's in our pasta. It's in all those cakes, cookies, pies, pizza. It's everywhere. So, what we need to do is not stop eating flour, but to cut back on the sugar and the flour quite a bit, and instead be eating a lot more, and literally a lot more vegetables. And I know we were always told, well, you got to eat your vegetables. But seriously, we really need to increase the vegetables, lots of different kinds, lots of different colors, best if they're fresh, best if they're organic even. But it's just so important. If you take a look at our plate, our dinner plate, the typical dinner plate, at least the way I was brought up, was a nice slab of meat and a potato on one side and a few veggies on the other side. And instead, it ought to be 2/3 veggies. And we don't tend to do that, but that's what we really should be doing. And it first of all, it's healthy. It has all sorts of nutrients in it that we need, vitamins, minerals, and at the same time, it has those fibers that those gut bacteria need. So, it's just a combination of all of it.
You're so right, Dr. Stephen, and I want listeners to be reminded here on Herbally Yours on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Ellen Kamai, the natural nurse, and today my guest is the author of Longevity Decoded, The 7 Keys to Healthy Aging, and he has a very long and impressive bio. We have with us today Dr. Stephen Schimpff, MD, and who has been in this field a very, very long time, and he's giving us extremely wise advice from his book, Longevity Decoded, The 7 Keys to Healthy Aging. So how do you feel about fermented foods, Dr. Stephen, in order to help increase these healthy bacteria?
Fermented food has, it's fermented by bacteria that are good for us, and so things like sauerkraut and kimchi. I don't personally like kimchi, but anyway, sauerkraut, yogurt, many other things are not manufactured, but they're made by these bacteria. And if you look at the yogurt container, for example, it'll say made by lactobacillus and bifidobacillus. But the important question is, does it say live cultures? Because often it gets made by the bacteria, but then it gets pasteurized again, or some other treatment that kills off the bacteria. And what you want are those bacteria, so they're healthy bacteria. So that yogurt that says you want it to say live cultures, and usually, sticking with yogurt for a second, if yogurt has something added to it, like vanilla or like some fruit, almost always it has sugar added to it, and almost always they kill the bacteria. So look carefully at the label and be sure it says live cultures. But anyway, what those do, that's just the good bacteria that goes down into our gut and just helps build that good bacterial content in our gut. So it's really good for us.
Yes, I think it is excellent, and thanks for that extra tip for our listeners so that they know to look on the label for live. And also in terms of yogurt, I just want to say kimchi. I love kimchi. So the difference, not everybody has heard of that. You discussed sauerkraut, Dr. Stevens, so that's kind of the Eastern European version of fermented cabbage. And then if we go to the Asian countries, we see kimchi, which is mostly from Korea, and it's so similar. The difference is it has some red hot sauce in it, which I actually like, and you don't. That's fine.
That's my problem.
But what's interesting is that grandmothers in such divergent cultures all offer that same food, and it's healthy.
Yeah.
They knew something when we look back in time. Now, cognitive decline and sleep deprivation are big issues for people as they age. What do you suggest for those two issues?
Well, we need to get sleep. And, the reason we need sleep, and there's so many different reasons, but just a few of them are that when we're sound asleep, our brain cells literally shrink. Now, this is very new information. They literally shrink, and fluid then forms around them in the space that's been left over. But it's not just sitting there, fluid. It's slowly moving. Think of it as a slow-moving river, and it's literally washing those brain cells and carrying toxins away. So over the course of the night, if you have a good night's sleep, you're just, let's say you washed your brain, and that's really valuable. Maybe one of the reasons why sometimes you wake up and feel really refreshed, because you had a good washing done last night. And if you had a very fitful night's sleep, well, then the washing didn't work very well, and so you don't feel so rested in the morning. So that's one reason. Another reason is that during the night, while we're asleep, a part of our brain called the hippocampus organizes our memories. And the best description I can give, an analogy, is that when you're working on the computer and you write a letter to somebody and you send it off, but now you want to save a copy of it, you've got to hit the little button that says Save As, and you put it in one folder or another somewhere on your computer. Well, that's what's happening at nighttime. Your hippocampus is taking those memories, and it's adjusting them, it's cleaning them up, but it's filing them away so you can get back to them when you need to. So that's another very important part of sleep, and there's quite a few more. So we need to sleep. So how do you assure getting a better night's sleep? One thing is the hour or two before you go to sleep. Of course, don't have caffeine, because that's going to make it harder to fall asleep. And have that period of time be sort of a quiet down period. Not a good time to watch a violence movie on TV.
How about the news?
You just better watch the news at 6 o'clock and not at 10 o'clock.
This is the issue, because sometimes people get very riled up by that,
well, exactly.
And then they're not going to sleep well.
Especially in our times now of lots of arguments going back and forth. So you want to get settled down. Maybe some nice music. Maybe read an interesting book, but not, again, one that's a settling book, not a stimulating book. So then when you go to bed, the bedroom should be absolutely dark. So no TV in the bedroom. Turn off your cell phone, because that little blue light from the cell phone actually stimulates your brain to think that morning's coming. So you don't want that. So you want a very dark room, very quiet room, and it should be for sleep. Those are just a few things. And the other thing to do is to try and time your sleep to the cycle of the day. Now, some people can't. Somebody who's working the night shift can't do that. But for most of us, try and don't stay up till 1 o'clock, go to bed, and then think you'll get up at 9 o'clock in the morning, because your body will start to tell you around 5 o'clock in the morning that morning is coming. And the melatonin from your brain starts to go down, the cortisol from your adrenals starts to go up, and that's the thing. Those are the things that tell us it's time to wake up. So you're not going to sleep as well, probably, if you don't sort of stick with the cycle of the day, if you will. So those are just a few tips.
Those are excellent tips, and thank you so much. Believe it or not, we're just about out of time here on on Herbally Yours, Doctor. So besides the idea that people can get your book, Longevity Decoded, The 7 Keys to Healthy Aging, which has all the information we discussed, and of course a whole book full of really excellent charts and graphs and ways to slow aging with lifestyle modifications. And that's a great thing to do as we get older, because we still want to have fun, that's for sure. So do you have just a goodbye comment for our listeners, Dr. Stephen?
Yes. Two, but they go together. The first one is start early in adulthood. Don't wait till you're 50, 60, 70. Doesn't matter. You can start anytime, but get started early on these 7 keys.
Okay, we're going to end there, and okay. I want to remind our listeners to thanks for joining us, and stay healthy.